Hello, welcome to another wonderful episode of Open Studio right here on Cape Town TV. I'm not alone today. I'm with my guests, Jenny and Warren, who are here to talk about a really cool initiative. Hi guys, how are you?
Hey, Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Thanks for having us
Oh,
at Open Studios.
Of course, it's my
Fantastic
pleasure.
to be here.
It's
Yeah.
my pleasure.
Good.
So, you guys are part of an initiative called the Recovery Walk,
Yes.
which you're here to talk about. But before we go into that, would you like to maybe reintroduce yourselves and just tell us a little more about yourselves as well?
Sure. Okay, I'll go first. So I'm Jenny, and I've been involved and inspired by the Recovery Walk for 5 years now. I'm in long-term recovery from drugs and alcohol. What more? I'm an artist, I'm a singer, I'm a musician. So when we get to talking about what the walk's about, we can talk more about that. But that's in a nutshell who I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And you, Warren?
I'm Warren. I'm also in long-term recovery from substance addiction. I'm very involved in the recovery space, not only with the Recovery Walk, but many other initiatives. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Okay. So something I didn't know is that September is Recovery Month.
It is.
Would you like to tell us a little more about this?
Yeah, it's Global Recovery Month. It's been going on for about 30 years. In fact, this year it celebrates 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And it's what inspired us here in Cape Town to start a recovery walk. And the message is very simple. It's about celebrating recovery from alcoholism, from addiction and mental health. And it's about sharing knowledge that we do recover and that there is help. And most importantly, it challenges stigma and misconceptions about addiction and alcoholism and mental illness. So in Cape Town, we loved that message and got together and began to create recovery walks, choosing Heritage Day to do it. But of course, the whole of September is Recovery Month, so any event can happen in that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you said, you guys, you're recovering and you have been in, spaces about recovery from substance abuse. Just paint us a picture. How bad is, substance abuse as a social ill?
Yeah, that kind of language, we need to reframe things, but we were chatting earlier about it. And what were you saying, Warren?
See, recovery in Cape Town, there's a high rate of substance abuse in Cape Town, and it's linked to a lot of different social ills. And the stigma around substance addiction, it's kind of restrictive. So it prevents people from finding recovery.
That's right.
And that's the kind of stigma that we're trying to lift with the Recovery Walk.
Yeah. Okay. So what have some of your experiences been like? What have you seen? I mean, you're saying this is a social ill. What is happening to the fabric of society? Like, where are people getting access to in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because we will always have access to drugs and alcohol. I mean, alcohol is legal. Let's just say, obviously, there's an age limit to buying alcohol, but most young kids will experiment with alcohol, or they'll see their parents drinking and stuff like that. Drugs also, it's illegal at the moment in our country, and in other places in the world it's been decriminalized so that we can really focus on wellness and healthcare, which personally I'd love us to get to in South Africa. But out of everybody who experiments with alcohol and drugs, there's a particular percentage of people where it will develop into addiction. And how does that present itself? So that can present itself in depression, it can present itself in anxiety, in not achieving what you can achieve. It can move into theft, it can move into lying, it really damages the person. And how does that affect families? Well, that's fairly obvious because then there's a separation between that. There's a lot of shame involved with like having a child that tries to commit suicide or having a kid who's on drugs. There's a lot of shame in the family because of the community stigma. So And that's where it becomes an illness. That's where it becomes a social ill.
Okay.
And then for the person who's in that place of addiction and isolation, because they feel so shamed, and because sometimes you don't know where you can go for help, and because there's a shame about being open about who you are, then it can just get worse. And then trying to find a job when you're in active addiction or active alcoholism or in an untreated mental illness, it's impossible. No one's going to employ you. So it just sort of folds over. So, this is part of why we walk for recovery and why we're... I mean, I don't know, I'm in long-term recovery from drugs and addiction, and if you looked at me, would you think, oh, there's an addict?
No.
You wouldn't, because when we start getting better, you don't see that anymore. But where open recovery is important is that I'm sitting with a bunch of friends and someone's going, oh, those addicts, they're useless, and I go, oh, you're talking about me, and I'm a lucky one,
I think in my experience with addiction, it's not so much the substance addiction where the shame lies, it's the finding ways and means to get the substance where the shame lies. So I found in my experience that, and not only with myself, but with many other, especially young addicts, especially in the Cape Flats, is that young girls and even boys are prostituting themselves, are engaging in risky sexual behavior, and are having unwanted pregnancies. The young,
and much more.
The young kids are involved in petty crime, and those same kids then evolve through the criminal justice system, become organized criminals. They become gangsters, and so on and so forth. And it leads to school dropouts, early dropouts in schools. It leads to gender-based violence. I think the substance addiction...
even more forms of violence as well.
Exactly. Substance addiction is a major contributor towards most social ills. And that's where the shame comes from. Because as an addict, you're not isolated in terms of you just use drugs, but it's the things that you did, to get and maintain your habit. That's where the shame comes from.
Okay, well, guys, we do have to go to a quick ad break, but this was a very insightful conversation we had. So don't you go anywhere. We will be back with more. Welcome back to Open Studio. I'm Sisanda, and I'm with my guests, and we are talking about a really cool initiative called the Recovery Walk. So before the break, we had a really interesting conversation about, how substance abuse can be, can affect everyone, both the person who's taking it and those close to him or her. So in aid to kind of, find a way to celebrate people recovering substance abuse, you guys are part of an initiative. Would you like to tell us a little bit more? What exactly is the Recovery Walk?
Okay. So who are we? Like, who are the organizers of the Recovery Walk? So it's a group of volunteers. Some of us are in recovery from alcoholism or addiction or mental illness. Some of us are not. Some of us are healthcare professionals. So we're a group that get together to organize a platform for people in recovery, for people not in recovery, for families and friends to be together in a clean, sober space and in an inclusive space. And this is our 5th year of walking, and we've done something different this year. Firstly, we've moved location, and we've made it more into a whole day event. So, we also support intersectional community spaces. And what's very important is that we support the many pathways to recovery, because there are so many different ways that people will find recovery. So we support all of those. I'm looking at my notes here. And what's also important to remember is that we are blame, shame, and stigma-free. So we're not an anti-drug walk. We are not an anti-gangsterism walk. We're not an anti-addict walk. Our purpose here is to celebrate recovery, open recovery. Our messages are, we do recover, recovery is possible.
Yeah.
We're recovering dignity.
Okay.
I think the most important thing is that recovery is possible. You know, never lose hope. So the
Okay.
people who you might seem it's like it's hopeless. But everybody is hope in everyone. You know, everybody has an opportunity to recover, and they can recover.
Okay.
And recovery is not something that the reason why I personally would like to celebrate recovery is not only because I'm an addict, but recovery is something that everybody, it affects, addiction is something that affects everybody. Doesn't only affect the addict, doesn't only affect the addict's family or relatives or whatever, it affects everybody.
Can you give us an example perhaps of how it can affect everybody?
It has far-reaching effects, because if you're really at the crux of the matter, if you're looking at people, every time you lock your doors at the robots, while you're driving your car doors, it's because of substance addiction. Every time you're installing high security at your premises, it's because of substance addiction. The children that can't play in the roads any longer, it's because of substance addiction. And it has far-reaching effects. So you might not see have an addict in your family or close friend or whatever, but substance addiction affects you. And recovery from substance addiction is something that you need to celebrate, because every time an addict, when an addict gets clean or finds recovery, I mean, that's just like, it's cause to celebrate, you know?
Yes,
And there's a thing that I saw on Facebook the other day, where a little meme, and it's like, addiction happens, we know it, but so does recovery.
Yeah.
Of course.
And that's what we need to actually, again, change our dialogue, change our minds, start looking at recovery, opposed to sitting in that place of blame all the time. And we're kidding ourselves if we think that crime doesn't have assistance from alcohol and drugs, because we know what those substances can do, and they're very powerful. The thing with going further into addiction and alcoholism stuff is that
Trauma.
it's trauma as well, but also we don't know when to stop. And I know certainly in my early days of recovery, I couldn't go into places where there was social gatherings, because alcohol's everywhere, drugs are everywhere. Now I can, but I don't understand the people who can just have 2 drinks and stop, because it's not in me to be able to do that. So the other thing about the recovery walk is helping people sustain their recoveries, because there is treatment and there are programs and stuff, but what happens afterwards? So we're creating sober events. So even before the recovery walk, we've got 3 events that are happening before the actual walk, and hopefully in the future there will be more events happening around in Cape Town, and then we'll all get together and walk together. So there we're addressing a lot of issues in Cape Town, the spatial divides, all of that kind of thing, where we can acknowledge that in each community we have something in common, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
And you know what I find very, very important, and even more so than for the addict themselves, but it's more for the family because an addict can't recover in isolation.
No.
You can't. And what's happening at the moment is people addicts are going to rehabs, and they're coming out of rehabs, and all of a sudden their family thinks they're cured. You know, the problem is solved now, and everything has to go back to normal, and that's not the case. So we need to educate and inform the relatives and family of...
It's true, there's that misconception that when you go into recovery you're cured and you're no longer an addict. And it's not true. I will always be an addict.
Okay.
But I'm an addict in recovery. I'm not an active addict.
Okay, I see.
So I don't want to go there. And actually gets to a point further along the line in recovery where you don't need to anymore. Because you've moved away from that way of being. So now I can sit with people who are having a drink, and it's okay.
Okay. I just briefly also would like to know the recovery walk. I mean, I can definitely see that it's definitely got a place in society. But how did people, I would like to know the history behind how was it that people came together and they decided we need to do this walk? Like, why a walk? Like, do any of you know
so it's about visibility. It's about that people can see, so that people get clean, that people
Which
recover.
Is very
it's
important.
visibility. It's like we are living proof that recovery works. So that's actually one of the main reasons behind the whole movement, and also then to show there are these places where people can go for help.
Okay.
Yeah, but visibility is a big one, because we can vanish when we get clean. Our stories can get silenced.
Okay. All right.
Because we look better.
Okay. And I would like to also know about the community. How have the communities received this walk? I mean, this is not only people within, you know, the substance abuse,
Yes,
you
absolutely.
know, scene, but also on the outside as well. How much support have you received?
I think from my experience with this recovery walk, and I've been dealing with a lot of community stakeholders, community leaders and various stakeholders, and everybody's been super supportive. Because everybody realizes what a big impact addiction has, substance addiction has on the communities, you know, the very fabric of the communities. And so everybody is very supportive.
I'm going to have to cut you, Warren. We do have to go to a quick ad break, but we'll continue with Warren, more on the recovery walk. See you after this break. Thank you so much for coming back to join us on Open Studio. We are having a very interesting conversation about an initiative called the Recovery Walk. So Warren, you were telling us, I mean, I wanted to know about the support, you know, that you're receiving from the community as a whole. And you were busy talking about you dealing with a lot of stakeholders. Would you like to go into more on that?
As I was saying, the stakeholders and the community leaders are super supportive of the event. They realize the importance of it and to break the stigma of addiction.
Okay, all right. So when is it taking place, the Recovery Walk?
Okay, so the Recovery Walk has always taken place on Heritage Day.
Is there a reason? Or is
Well, so for us, it's we want to be included on the City of Cape Town's events.
I see.
Heritage Day
I
events.
see,
That's
I
and so
see.
we're just keeping to that. So this
Okay.
year, Heritage Day, it's a holiday, is on the 24th of September, and this year it's on a Tuesday. So, and the venue that we're at is the Joseph Stone Auditorium, which in Athlone, it's on Klipfontein Road.
So it didn't always used to be there.
So
What
it used to be in the CBD,
Okay.
and we'd start from Green Markets, you walk up to the Labia, and the move is because we want to grow. That's basically it. We want to grow. We want to be able
reach further
to
communities.
reach further communities, so
visibility.
more people
And
can
why do you
come.
want to grow? Why is it important to go into different communities and
So here's an interesting thing. Philadelphia, USA, 30 years they've been doing the recovery walk, inclusive of HIV/AIDS. It's a group called ProAct. They have 30,000 people
wow.
walking. So this is so empowering. It's so uplifting for everything that's happening at the moment, which is devastating. And here we come with this message to celebrate recovery
Okay.
from these very...
It's very powerful message.
It's powerful, and what's really important is that recovery voices count, that we have experience of being in that darkness. We do.
Yeah.
And we have now experience of coming out of that and getting our lives together as best as we can, because you know there's no miracle cure and we're still human, but without substances it makes it so much easier.
Okay.
So
You are busy saying it's going to be taking place in
oh
Athlone?
yes, so Athlone at Joseph Stone Auditorium. We're opening at 10:30.
Okay.
There's secure parking. It's a great venue, and we will do the walk, and then there'll be food, and you know, children are welcome, families are welcome. We've got an open stage outside, so people, you know, poets and musicians will be sharing, people who want to share their story.
And I think a lot of what's very important is that we're going to have information stalls as well for people who's
Absolutely.
looking to find recovery, or relatives of addicts who's looking to find information about how to deal with it or to cope. So we'll have information stalls. There will be lots of education.
And in the, sorry, I need to interrupt you, in the auditorium we'll be showing documentaries. And this will bring us to the pre-events. So we've already had one, which was poster painting on Sunday, which was great, where we paint our slogans and things.
Is that where you had the competition? Or?
No, well, we'll get to T-shirt.
Okay.
Right. No, the T-shirt competition was put out on social media that we wanted someone to design the T-shirt for this year. So that's happened. We had 4 entrants, and the T-shirts are getting busy.
A new makeover.
Yeah, the reason why was because, you know, we've got a T-shirt for you as
Oh,
a gift.
thank you.
This is last year's T-shirt.
Yes,
So
I will wear this proudly on the 24th to show
Yay.
my support for
Good.
recovery. Okay, thank you so much,
Can
Jenny.
I just say about the pre-screenings, the two
Yes,
events that
please
we've
do.
got,
Yeah.
is on Saturday in Kailicha at the Sivivana Center. We're showing a documentary called Generation Found.
Which Saturday is this?
This Saturday, the 14th.
Okay.
The 14th.
Mhm.
And on Wednesday, the 18th, we're showing the same documentary at the Labia,
Okay.
which is in town,
Okay.
the Labia Theatre, also Generation Found. And it's about recovery high schools.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
So in the States, there are 34 high schools, where the only reason you go to them is if you're in trouble with addiction. And the teachers and the counselors are all trained to help these kids come clean.
That is amazing.
It's amazing. So that's like a future vision
Of
for
possibly
having recovery high schools in South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a 24-hour, you know, you constantly, especially if you're that young.
Yeah,
You know.
so if you get a chance, they're free. The screenings are free. There's no charge to come and watch those documentaries.
Okay.
So what time does the one in Kailicha start? On
At 2 o'clock,
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, and the lobby is at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And we'll also be screening that documentary on the day of the walk
Okay.
as well.
All right. Is there a reason also behind the color purple?
Purple.
It's the international recovery color.
Exactly,
Oh,
it's the
wow.
Color of
global colour.
recovery. Purple.
Wow. So it just shows there's been a lot of thought
Yeah.
behind this recovery walk, in making sure that there's a lot of symbols that pertain to recovering as well. Who is this? So you mentioned that it's for, you know, recovery addicts and their families. Who else can participate? I mean, what if you don't actually know anyone?
Anybody
are
can
you going to?
participate.
Yeah.
Anybody. As I said,
Anybody.
addiction affects everybody, so everybody should participate in the recovery, celebrating recovery.
So Warren, this is actually your first year
That's
that
my
you.
first year.
Why this year? Why did you decide that you wanted to be part of this initiative?
Well, I'm quite passionate about recovery in general, and I'm very involved with youth recovery on the Cape Flats and various community projects and so on. And a friend of mine who's on the committee, on the organizing committee, asked me to be part of it. So I'm dealing with community stakeholders and promoting the event to the community.
Okay.
I must just say it's a great team.
Yes.
The team, there are 10 of us on the team, and everybody is just stepping up and showing up,
Yes.
and it's really
The
fantastic.
perfect team.
Yeah, we're a dream team.
Yes. So Jenny, you've been, you know, part of this. You said it started 5 years
5
ago.
years ago,
From day one.
Day one.
How have you seen it grow? What memories do you have? What were the
Yeah.
challenges and?
Interesting. So I mean, there was a meeting that was called about the recovery walk. So I just went along, and learning about having to apply for permits, learning about speaking to venues to see whether we could do it, showing up for meetings. The biggest challenge was finding an alignment within the team to what the vision is. And I feel that after 5 years, that's been found. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful and humbled by this team of people that have a similar vision for where this can go. And so, I'm very...
The future only looks brighter from here.
I'm going to have to get shades.
I especially like this fifth annual recovery walk because it's going to happen in Athlone, where I'm from.
Oh wow,
and it's got a lot of sentimental value for me because very few people from the Cape Flats actually can make it out of town. It's not that accessible.
Yes.
And it's become more accessible to the communities who actually need it.
Okay. I am going to have to cut it. We've reached the end of our show, but this is not the last time you're coming over.
Oh, yeah.
We want to hear how it went this year, the next time you come.
Okay.
Thank you, Sasanda.
Thank you so much to my guests.
Thank you.
And thank you to you, the viewer, for watching us as well. So do catch me next time on Open Studio. This is Sasanda Hinda signing out on Cape Town TV. Goodbye.